Now, New York's #1 news. Channel 7 Eyewitness News this morning.
Right now, another storm is hitting the already waterlogged tri-state area. While the heavy rain is already moving out of the area, that is little comfort for places like Patterson and Little Falls.
It's just a shame, a real shame. Normally, it's a beautiful place. I will say that. Normally.
Rivers in New Jersey are still at flood stage. Has led to widespread damage. As you can see there, the governor will tour some of the hardest hit areas today.
And the storms are also causing erosion concerns in places like Long Island, with officials calling now for help from the federal government.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday. I'm Michelle Charlesworth.
And I'm Toni Yates, meteorologist. Dani Beckstrom here now with our first look at the AccuWeather forecast. Dani.
Toni and Michelle, another wet one to start our Saturday morning. Overnight into this morning, heavy rain, gusty wind across the tri-state. Now, the worst of the rain, the most widespread and heaviest rain, already shifting east, but we're not through with the rain chances just yet, and definitely not done with the wind. Temperature in New York City at 55. That's a big weather headline today. We start very mild, and then the wind speed, as the wind picks up this afternoon, helps to bring in some colder air and temperatures steadily drop. But I want to start with the radar. Of course, this is probably what most people want to know this morning. You see the heavy rain now off to our east, but a few showers still going to swing through, associated with this large area of low pressure that's brought messy weather to so much of the country. So many problems out there, from snow to rain to wind. For us, it's just the rain and, of course, the wind, especially as we move into this afternoon. So where we're still seeing the consistent rain, the eastern half of Long Island and up through Fairfield County, we are still under a flood watch for parts of coastal Connecticut. Everywhere else, it's a little more hit and miss. We're watching this storm report here of a tree down in the Taconic Parkway for Dutchess County. No other storm reports to tell you about, just some hit or miss areas of rain from here. We are still looking at some flood warnings for area rivers. This is the Passaic, this is the Hudson up in close to Poughkeepsie. But coastal flooding now is a concern, especially heading into high tide times today. It's part of the coastal flooding, the coastal erosion, all something that we're watching for our coastal communities, especially the south-facing shores of Long Island and coastal Connecticut with that onshore wind. It's still blustery this morning, and the wind is a big weather headline today, as well as the falling temperatures. This morning starting in the 50s. It's just not the case heading into this afternoon as we slowly taper off. We get colder and colder throughout the day as the gusty wind picks up. I'll let you know how much rain that we did see overnight, as well as where we're watching for flooding issues today coming up. Michelle?
All right, you're on the job. Thank you so much. From Little Falls to Patterson, we've seen days of flooding, and the storm overnight is expected to make things even worse.
That's right.
Now, New York's #1 news. Channel 7 Eyewitness News this morning.
Another weekend storm while up the tri-state. Streets have turned into rivers, and they're staying that way in towns along the Passaic River. The people who live there are at their wits' end as they have to deal with waterlogged homes and ruined cars.
Yeah, look at that. Meanwhile, storms packed a punch along the coast. Long Island officials sounded the alarm against beach erosion, concerned about that after weeks of severe weather. Now they are calling it a situation of DEFCON 5.
We've got team coverage with Dani Beckstrom tracking the forecast. Marcus Solis is in New Jersey, and Reagan Medji is on Long Island.
All right. Good morning once again, everyone. You are looking at haze over the city. Thanks for joining us this Saturday, September 13th. It's not September 13th. That's what that says.
It does say that.
It does say September 13th. And I went along with it.
It's my wedding anniversary, September 13th. But that's not what the day is. It's January 13th.
I was just reading. Sorry about that.
It's
you know.
Okay.
All right.
I'm worried about all the other stuff.
I was looking. Yeah, I'm looking.
We're worried about everything.
I was looking up there. Okay. Good morning. And I'm Toni Yates.
Michelle Charles.
Meteorologist Dani Beckstrom here now. Dani, there's so much that you have to tell people today. I am just amazed and astonished that you know all of this stuff to get them through the day.
Well, that is very kind. My brain is so muddled. It looks a lot like the camera view here that I was like, yes, it is September. That makes perfect sense for where I am at mentally right now. There is so much going on, but I guess the good news is the widespread heavy rain, that has moved on. From here, showery, with some big visibility issues starting to develop. That's what happens when dew points and air temperature are both in the mid-50s. Can you believe it's 55 degrees right now in Central Park? We're starting so warm, and then steadily throughout the day, temperatures fall. Here's a look at the radar. So the messiest stuff has moved on. This is what was falling overnight. What we're left with this morning, just a few scattered hit or miss areas of rain. We're watching these showers kind of set up over the northern half of New Jersey, right along the, what highway is this? I forget. Okay, but anyway, close to where Marcus is this morning, close to the Passaic River, really kind of hovering around the Passaic River there. So we're watching those scattered showers move through. We're watching the flood warnings over area rivers, especially for the Passaic. Now added the Hudson up close to Poughkeepsie, but also coastal flood warnings, coastal flood advisory. We're watching an onshore wind coupled with high tide times today kind of really make a mess for our coastal communities. That coastal flooding inundation could be up to 2 to 3 feet, but also looking at erosion. It's a big story across the area, and that is going to be a big concern moving into today. Check out these gust speeds. Montauk close to 40 miles per hour, and a lot of our coastal communities saw gusts right around that 40-mile-per-hour mark through the overnight hours, and those gust speeds don't really back off a whole lot today. It is going to be blustery as temperatures begin to fall. Hopefully that wind helping to mix out some of this patchy fog, but right now visibility is a struggle across the area, due in part to these mild temperatures, mid-50s throughout the day, but by this afternoon 40s and by tonight 30s. So our attention now really turns from the widespread rain to the gusty wind and the falling temperatures. It'll be blustery throughout the day and getting much colder. Of course, we're going to be watching that lingering flooding. It's such a huge story. The coastal flooding and the river flooding will continue to be an issue for today as the rest of us kind of focus on the wind and the drop in temperature. Moving into tomorrow, it stays very windy, and a few snowflakes will be in the mix during the afternoon as a cold front moves through. That opens the door to a much different weather pattern next week. We're talking much colder temperatures and another chance for snow. I'll have the details on that in the full AccuWeather forecast. Michelle?
All right, thanks so much. Although the brunt of the storm may be gone, coastal flooding, erosion, still a major concern on Long Island, especially in the southern bays because of high tide. That happens from 8 this morning in about an hour to a little after noon this afternoon, and that could drive the water levels up.
This is a Channel 7 Eyewitness News Brief.
Good morning. It's 8:27 on this Saturday, January 13th. I'm Toni Yates, topping headlines at this hour. Flooding concerns continue in Paterson, New Jersey, after another round of rain passed through overnight. Governor Phil Murphy will visit the flood-ravaged city this afternoon. Paterson's mayor is also hosting a shopping event to help flood victims. That's happening at the City Center Mall at noon. Also new this morning, police officers rushed into a burning home to rescue a child. This was in Fresh Meadows, Queens. Police say the child was in the back bedroom of the home on 73rd Street. The FDNY says 8 people were taken to the hospital in total. No word yet on their conditions this morning. Investigators are looking into what caused that fire. That is the news for now. Good Morning America continues after the break, and we'll see you right back here just before 9 for another hour of Eyewitness News this Saturday morning.
Now, New York's #1 news. Channel 7 Eyewitness News this morning.
And right now, another storm hit our already waterlogged tri-state. While the heavy rain is moving out, that is little comfort for places like Paterson and Little Falls.
It's just a shame, a real shame. Normally, it's a beautiful place. I will say that. Normally,
rivers in New Jersey are still at flood stage, and that has led to widespread damage. As you see, the governor will tour some of the hardest hit areas today.
These storms are devastating, and they're not going to get any better. They're going to get worse.
Storms are causing erosion concerns in places like Long Island, with officials pleading now for help from the federal government.
Good morning, everyone. On this Saturday morning, looks like somebody pulled down the shade on Manhattan, right? I'm Michelle Charlesworth.
All right, I'm Toni Yates, meteorologist. Dani Beckstrom here now with our first look at the AccuWeather forecast. Dani.
Hey, good morning, Michelle and Toni. This camera view, again, a second ago, you could actually see the buildings, but that's just the story, right? Low cloud cover, patchy fog as the widespread heavy rain has moved out, but we're still dealing with lingering flooding, both river flooding and coastal flooding. And then our attention turns to a pretty dramatic drop in temperature. Right now, 58 degrees in Central Park. That is so mild. We'll hold in the 50s through about midday. Then a cold front moves through, knocking down the temperature and picking back up the wind speed. Areas of dense fog, a problem on Long Island. You see ice slip down to just 1/10 of a mile, 1/3 of a mile in Bridgeport. Better in Central Park finally, but we're still dealing with low cloud cover all across Manhattan. Temperature across the board is very warm, mid to upper 50s this morning. Belmar even at 60 degrees. Unusually mild for this time of year, but it doesn't last too much longer. Again, by late afternoon, early evening, temperatures really fall, and it'll feel a whole lot more like winter in the coming days. Now to the radar. Overnight into this morning, widespread heavy rain, but right now just a few lingering spotty areas of rain We're watching this shower moving over Manhattan as we speak into parts of Brooklyn, Queens, and eventually into Nassau County. But the larger area of low pressure, that's centered still off to our west. But the larger area of rain has moved off to our east here. And for now, conditions quiet down. But that doesn't mean the impacts are quieting down. For rivers, we're still dealing with flooding as the Passaic expected to move back into major flood range near Pine Brook as we move into tonight and tomorrow. And for our coastal areas, now that we're approaching high tide for a lot of the south shore of Long Island, things are getting rough out there. Coastal flood warning in effect. We have that onshore wind coupled with high tide, and that is not good news. So looking hour by hour, although the widespread rain has wrapped up, the impacts have not. Lingering river and coastal flooding. Temperatures will start to drop off once that cold front moves through. See, we steadily drop in temperature as a gusty wind picks up. That's the weather headline for today. Moving into tomorrow, stays blustery. Snowflakes moving through with another cold front tomorrow. That opening the door for much colder conditions settling in for the work week. I'll have all the latest in the full AccuWeather forecast coming up. Michelle?
All right, you're talking about this. From Little Falls to Patterson, we have seen days of flooding, and the storm from overnight is expected just to make things worse.